Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Sorry it took me so long. I know you guys said you weren't in a hurry, but I still didn't intend for it to take this long. Um, so going through the data real quickly, I was hoping to have an easy one here because this is a neighborhood that's all built at the same time. It's not old enough, and it was nice enough when it was built that there hasn't been a lot of need for like total renovations. Old areas like Donaldson or East Nashville, they're just killer. You spend so much time on it, and this one actually thought it was going to be easy. Ended up with three curves thrown my way. One was your basement square footage. It's almost impossible in your neighborhood to get an exact comp because then the basement square footage would have to be the same ratio to the upstairs, etc. So for that purpose, we're going to go with sort of a national average, which is between 30 and 50%. In Tennessee, a well-finished basement almost always is on the high end of that, so I'm trying to do that, take that into consideration, and we can get more into that, but basically we're going to have to listen to the market, and if we don't get showings, that's listening to the market. You know, a lot of people say, well, I didn't have any showings, so I don't have any feedback. Well, that is your feedback. So we may have to make some changes as homes are listed. As the home is listed. The second problem I had is it's just not a big data set this time of year. So I did have data, and I start really wide just to make sure that that data is conforming and that there's not anything major that looks weird. And then I narrow it down. So the data set I have has been picked through a lot. I'd have to thumb through a lot of photos, which is why I wanted to see your house, just to make sure there wasn't any things that y'all done that significantly upgraded the house or any wear and tear that would have needed to be brought up. The only thing I really found was some carpet, some doors that maybe need to close a little better, etc. Those aren't big things. The carpet's the only thing I'm going to really ask you to address. And then, of course, there's just getting ready for staging, which I know that you guys know how important that is. Decluttering is the biggest thing everybody needs to do. So flipping through your photos real quick, these are terrible photos, by the way. Well, I say terrible, I've seen worse, but this fisheye lens and everything. So we're gonna have awesome photos if you decide to list your house. But anyway, so we go through that. Oh yeah, and sorry, real quickly, the third thing I had was some outlying numbers, which is where a number just doesn't fit the data set, and you have to go back through and try to figure out why. Good news and bad news is that there wasn't anything particular that stood out as to why I had two outlying numbers. The good news is that one of those numbers was really high. The bad news is that one of those numbers was really low. So going to our first set here, I went ahead and included in this section right here some of the actives and ones that are under contract. So basically what you see, we have here is these two are under a contract at a 189, 187. Now we don't know that that's necessarily what they're paying. You're going to see that these are a lot smaller than your house, which means it's going to drag your price per square foot down. You might think, oh my gosh, these aren't anywhere near the same size as my house. Well, it's because if you look right here, this is your basement square footage. I'm not including any homes that had basement square footage because the ratio to basement square footage, upstairs square footage, changes everything. So what I'm looking at is what is ground level square footage worth in your neighborhood, and then backing into how much value that adds to the house. So this one right here, it's a little high. Again, back to not having a big enough data set. I'd like to stay within 200 square feet or 100 square feet. Your house is 3,030 square feet on ground level and above. You see that one at 161. That was the really low outlier, and even more troubling is that this house hasn't sold yet. So the days on the market, and you don't see this in that data set, in withdrawals and expires getting put on the market, being taken back off the market, is really high in this area. So you're basically experiencing a softer market right there in your neighborhood. The reason why is not because the market is bad, but you're in a higher price point. So anytime the market sort of shifts a little bit and we're in the middle of that, it's not a huge shift. In fact, it may not even turn out to be much of a shift at all. People are just leery right now. And so when spring comes, we'll know exactly if we're going to kind of follow the national trend, which is, you know, strong, fast cooling, not necessarily a downturn in terms of value, but a downturn in terms of demand, which is going to shift it to a buyer's market again. We're in a seller's market right now. So flipping through these photos, you know, outdated decor and such, but nothing that stands out to me that says, wow, yeah, that's why this house isn't hardly selling. Let's see, where's the outside photo I wanted to get to? There you go. Great backyard. So to me, even though it's outdated, it's got a really good backyard. I felt like that there was no silver bullet or smoking gun, so to speak, as to why this house just wasn't selling at you know, the same value as the other ones. So let's go back to the list. That's at 161 a square foot. Oh, no, hope that wasn't gonna mess up my thing. Anyway, so then we get here this 188 a square foot. I mean 189. They're probably under contract near that, probably within 2 to 5% of list price. So we got another one here at 187. Another one here under contract at 184. And then we have two closed comps at 203 and 181. That was the other outlier that I was describing. So we're going to flip through these real quickly. This one I would say was smack in the middle, meaning the other ones that are listed at 187 and 189 a foot that we don't know exactly what they're in their contract could easily come down to this one at 181. Now this house at 180 is just stinking amazing. Obviously they don't have kids, or they staged the house after the kids were gone. Well, they do have kids, you saw that, but it's hard to keep a house in this kind of condition and it's at 181 a square foot. So that's an amazing house. Go back to the list here and look at this one. This is at 203 a square foot. Again, this is one of those things where you're like, wow, why could this one sell for $20 a square foot more? And it's pretty hard to put your finger on sometimes. And this is one of those scenarios. It looks awesome, but I don't think staging wise and everything else, the white cabinets, everybody loves those white cabinets, that it was $20 a square foot better than the one we just flipped through. And I think you'll agree. Well, that's pretty nice right there. But anyway, great backyard again. And I bring up the backyard because I know you have some terracing and such that are awesome. Love it. But it's not the same as having this huge, big, flat backyard. So that's the numbers I have on the books. Basically, it's hovering at that. And I know, again, this right here, 184, 187, and 189, they're probably going to sell for below that. Especially this one right here, 112 days on the market. They probably didn't sell at 184 square foot. These two got a contract super quickly, so they could be right at list. But I would say these are our main numbers: 189, 187, 181, with these two being the outliers. That 161 one is worth a preview. Where you and I, or just me, I go look at the house and say, wow, there's got to be something that's keeping this from selling. So, all right, now let's get into some other stuff. Okay, now so what I did here is I just took the 6 months prior to the last 6 months that I just did. The reason I'm doing this, and this is something I'm going to have to start doing if the market shifts, but there's just so much up in the air right now. I've talked to so many people and have been following the real estate data super closely. National trends are turning back right now towards the buyer's market, but I want to look at the previous 6 months because I need to set expectations, which is why I do this whole presentation just instead of showing you a spreadsheet, because you could be really disappointed if this happens. But that previous 6 months, you'll see that the sales price per square foot, 164, 156, 176, and 187. Now, I'm going to make this short because you got to keep this presentation down, but I went through all these photos. These are all reasonable houses in similar condition. You can see that this one had 161 days on the market. This one had 179. This one was a slightly inferior home, but it sat out there for a very long time, and they ended up selling for 156 a square foot. It's interesting because when you have a really large house, um, because it takes a certain amount per square foot to rehab a house, if it is in rough condition, it hurts the price a whole lot more overall. So they ended up selling in the 487 area. So just wanted to show you that so that if this does take a turn. The good news about both of these sets of numbers is, depending on when you decide to list, a lot of these numbers aren't going to even be in your data set. These, of course, won't be in there for appraisals or anything like that. The other one will have some fall off, and some of those falling off numbers could be the low numbers, and the new norm could be, say, $200 a square foot. So, okay, that's all the raw, hard data that we cannot get around. This one, again, is not going to factor into your appraisal, but it is going to factor into if the market shifts. People are going to say, oh, I can't overbuy right now. It's changing. I'm going to buy at the top of the market, especially with after the recession. I've already had people very leery of that. I just sold a house in Spring Hill, and that was our biggest concern because they're paying top of the market, and the client was really worried about it. So anyway, that's just to show you kind of what we're up against. And there's a little inversion going on here too, where like the bigger house is going to sell for less per square foot. But that one, I'm not going to spend too much energy on that one because that one didn't sell. But anyway, all right, so that's the hard data. That's what we have to judge what we're going to list for and what is realistic, what we're going to sell for. Now I'm going to take you through the last part, which I call competitive analysis. Some people call it the CMA comparative analysis or competitive analysis. I separate the two. The comparative analysis is the data. The competitive analysis is what else is on the market. Okay, spent way too much time on the first part, but this is where we look at our competition. I call this competitive analysis. I'm assuming a bunch of things. I'm assuming that they need at least 2,900 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 3 baths minimum. You can have more, and they needed to be in the Brentwood High School District. So ordering these in price, and I will tell you, I've got you in the mid 600s. This is kind of what I look at, what's below that. I'm not going to take you through all the photos, but basically this one on Stonehenge would be a big competition because it's giving you over 5,000 square feet. It's really close to where we're going to be priced at, and the condition's almost the same. I'm just going to look real quickly, and then we'll go on to the next one. Then we'll go on to the next part. But basically, giving you a broad overview. This is about the finishes and condition. I think, again, very similar. This is, I can tell by the photos, the same company I use, so your photos are going to look great. But after that, when you go to my little list here and you start going backwards, I'll stop. The only other one that looks good on paper is Concord Road property, but it's on Concord Road, so it's 122 days on the market. After that, they kind of start falling off, and it's really quick to tell why the houses are not much of a competition to us, and I feel comfortable. So I do feel a little uncomfortable in the mid 660. The mid 650s because of the Stonehenge property right here. So these are some of the factors that you'll be looking at, that I've looked at in determining the value. I've tried to minimize walking you through all this stuff because I want to spend my time on the other stuff. But these are things appraisers can take into consideration. They're not going to take into consideration that you paid $2 more per foot for certain hardwood floors. Maybe you have a nicer backyard. They don't like to make adjustments on that. So I have to caution you that anything like that, you may not get a good ROI. Like a good example is your media room. People love media rooms. Does it make it worth more per square foot? No, it doesn't. Subjective factors, these are things like the media room that people love, that could, by nature of competition, bring things up or down. The busy road thing, for example, is something I pointed out on the Concord Road house. Many people just would not live on that busy road. So when we're talking about closed comps, we're talking about reality. We're not talking about the competition. This is what we have in the books. This is what the market has already said. Without us putting our house on the market, we have to listen to that too. Is that your above ground square footage is worth about 185 a foot. We may be able to stretch that. Spring's going to tell everything. So we may, that one that we had at 202, that may be the new norm. That one was a little bit more polished, is probably the word, than ours, but That'd put us about 550. Now in Tennessee, you get a lot of money for basement square footage. I've never quite understood exactly the reason for that, because it's so expensive to finish out. What I should say is I don't know why across the board they don't, sell for at least 50%. But that being said, so this is one of those unique situations. There's a saying that the worst thing you can do is take a bad listing because they're costly. If you price it wrong, folks are unhappy with you. You can only do so much to market a house when it's priced wrong. But I'm not as stuck to that 630 number as I normally would be. And I'd feel that I was serving your best interest to drive whatever price I came up with into your head, that this is the most you're going to get, or this is at least the most it's going to appraise for. So even if you get more, a buyer willing to pay more, it's not going to appraise for that. With this one, I'm not as dead set on it. I do think if spring comes around, you can maybe go higher for sure. If spring takes off and we don't follow sort of the national trend. We do have a lot of people moving here constantly, which has kind of insulated us in the recession and now. However, that has slowed down as well. The amount of people coming here slowed down. Actually, tourism took I say a hit. It took a tick back last year. I can sense it. I think it was 10% down. I can sense it with also new home starts and with like the traffic I'm getting on my Airbnb, the amount of closings that we're having. So we're probably entering into that, which means we're going to have to be more conservative, meaning even at 630, we may end up having to make some price changes. I don't think there's enough at the house that we can improve that would have a return on your investment. There's always things you can improve in terms of making the house nicer, but will you see your money back? So that's kind of a moot point. As with all houses, the biggest thing we do is declutter. We also have the birds. I think they were birds. Yeah, birds in the basement. Come remember for a second if it was birds or if it was like lizards or something. But that's going to be a little bit difficult with marketing. It's not as bad as yippy dogs or anything like that. But I do think that even at 630, we may have a soft enough market that we don't sell in 3 days, etc. We may be able to sell for 650 come spring, but I know for right now you have a lot of decisions to make, and that's your main purpose. So I wanted to put you right at 630, sort of a realistic number. If we do decide to list above that for any reason, we'll just look at the data at that time. That's fine. I would take that listing even if we had to put it on a price schedule, meaning, so look, we're going to go for 650, but no showings. I'm going to do the same marketing that I did with anything. No showings means that we're overpriced. So I've got a lot of tricks up my sleeve when it comes to marketing. That's kind of my thing. So if anybody can drive people to the house, it's going to be me. It's just that there's less buyers out there right now. So hope that helps. I wish I could have condensed this more, but I feel like I need to explain a lot, especially in this scenario. I probably have 4 hours in this, which is a lot more than normal. So anyway, I'll kick this over to you guys. I look forward to hearing from you, and I'd love to get you out to look at a few things, even though you're not quite ready to buy. I think that'll help you make your decisions going forward. So appreciate you guys. I'll talk to you soon. And by the way, your littlest girl, I forgot her name, is a doll, and I took a couple little pictures to show Kristen. So look forward to seeing you guys. Talk to you soon.